Good to go?
Yep, all set to go.
Okay, hi all. So I work with cut flowers and primarily, in fact, exclusively growing for events, not just weddings, but all different types of events. And while the specialists that we have here with us this afternoon are all cut flower people. I'll tell you right up front that I grow, I wouldn't say that I do just cut flowers. I do event stems because some of the things are really grown exclusively for events, and they're not necessarily going to be in the category of a cut flower because they won't meet the criteria of a cut flower since it doesn't last as long as a cut flower does. But to give you guys a little bit of an idea here about our farm, Saltair Farm is a family-run farm business. It's about 135 acres, and we've been running this particular farm business now for about 18 years. We have two full-time employees and five part-time employees. And like I said, we grow exclusively for events. So what that means is that we're growing for weddings, we're growing for not-for-profits, we're growing for schools and hospitals and things like that that are throwing big parties. Uh, and let's see. So how many weddings per year? That's one of the questions that we always get from folks. How many weddings a year do you do? Generally, that's between 20 and 30 weddings per year. And we offer weddings as a full service kind of a thing where we're meeting with a couple and then we're working with them beginning to end from growing to design to set up to take down at the end of their event. And we also offer a hybrid kind of a setup for brides that want to do some of their own arranging themselves in order to help keep the price down, um, and have us do often the things like the personals, the bridal bouquet, bridesmaids bouquets, and things like that. And then they'll say, well, I'd like to do my own table arrangements, in which case they're buying from us as a wholesale for those things, doing those arrangements themselves, and then we'll just provide the personals for them. Or we also offer full wholesale where somebody can come in and buy wholesale for their wedding and do all of their own arranging. In addition to that, we wholesale to local florists and not such local florists that are also in the event industry. And then those folks are taking the stems and doing their own weddings with them. And so in general, I'm picking from between 1 to 8 weddings a weekend. And most weekends during the season, it's between 4 and 8 weddings a weekend. So how do we do that? People always say, how do you do that? How do you keep track of all of that? How do you make all of that happen? And so there's really 5 points that I would say when I sat down to really think about, okay, what's really essential here? First is if you're not a super duper organized person, this is not the line of work for you. Secondly, you got to plan way ahead. Third, you have to have excellent communication skills. Four, you need to actually minimize your staff. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. In fact, each of these I'm going to cover in more detail. Um, that should be number 5 on there, which is also a number 4, but use cover crops. And number 6 is make a habit of really good pre and post harvest practices. So breaking those things down, organization. Um, you in general, I lay out my week to be really super weather efficient. And I explain that rhythm to my clients because if you're really farming your product and working in the wedding industry, you're working with a clientele that is used to having their questions answered in the second. They're used to um, being the number one thing that's happening. And I explain to the folks that I'm working with that for me, the number one thing is making their flowers turn out beautiful. And that means that I've got to really focus on the farming end. And so, um, and so I asked them to get into the same kind of a weather rhythm with me. So if it's going to be beautiful sunny days, like it's been here for the beginning part of this week, but then we're looking at rain in the latter part of the week, the better time for them to contact me would be on the rainy days. And believe it or not, you can actually train your clients to think along those lines right along with you. Uh, Also for organization, I'm thinking generally I'm planning 1 to 2 years ahead all the time, so that my plantings are going to be matching my sales. And it seems obvious that you want the stems that you promised to somebody to be harvested in the colors that your bride wants at the time that she needs them. But if you're not planning really carefully, that's going to get away from you and it isn't going to happen. The other organization piece is watching your color trends, and you should know a year ahead what most brides will want, even if they don't. And so, what I mean by that is that I can generally tell 1 to 2 years ahead what the colors are going to be, and that's just by staying on top of what the bridal industry is putting out there for everybody. Because every bride comes into you feeling like they have got this brand new original thought for the flowers, and in general, they've all got the same colors for that year. So that's helpful to have your finger on that ahead. Also, under organization is when we're talking about rhythm, you want to think about how you're laying your year out. So, in my own mind, when I'm laying my year out, I'm thinking spring is the time that I'm planting. I'm ordering my stuff for fall, and I'm selling. Summer, I'm maintaining those plantings and I'm selling. Fall, I'm planting, I'm selling, and I'm doing quotes. And winter, I'm pruning, I'm planning, I'm purchasing, I'm ordering more stuff to go in the spring, and then I'm working on quotes still. So that's a general layout for me in terms of what that looks like. Uh, as far as planning ahead goes, uh, I plan out the timing of plants with crop rotations in order to keep enough of the right product at the right moment. And so that's nothing easy about that other than sitting down with a calendar. Um, Cornell has actually got a really great cut flower um, planting schedule that shows you, kind of successive plantings and that kind of thing that you can ask them for. But in general, it's just a matter of getting out there and trying it and getting into the habit of how to keep those flowers coming along. Planning out your colors so that they're going to match what the trends are for the year. Plan out your staffing so that you've got the right people on at the right time, and planning out supplies. And planning out supplies is something that nobody thinks about until you get into the industry. But there's a whole lot more that goes with it in terms of you've got to have the right containers to go, general cut flower stuff, your French flower buckets are fine, or baskets are fine, or whatever look, paper bags sometimes are fine, whatever look you want to have that you're developing um, for your business. But when you're working in the event industry, it has nothing to do with what you want. It has to do with what the bride wants or what the event planner wants. And so you've got to make sure that the supplies that you need match what they're looking to have happen for the day. Okay, so that takes care of the organization part. In terms of communication, uh, the hardest thing that you're going to do is staying on top of answering people in a timely enough manner, particularly um, with the wedding folks. They just want an answer immediately, and again, it helps to get your clients trained. Um, be honest about what you can do as a farm, as with floral services. And I have that discussion right up when I'm sitting down and I'm doing a consult with somebody, and I talk with them about the difference between what a traditional florist does and what I do as a farm florist. And the biggest difference there that you're looking at is seasonal stems versus working with a world economy. A traditional florist is bringing in flowers from all over the world in order to meet the needs that they have of their client in the moment. As a farmer, you're working totally seasonally, and that adds a really exciting element for your clients, but it also adds a challenge on your end. Um, and then the communication part, more often than not, I cannot believe how often I hear people that are coming to me and talking to me about, I don't know how to have this conversation with people. It always seems so negative. Selling your product should not be a negative thing. You should be really proud of what you're selling, and you should be discussing the benefits that are coming with purchasing flowers from a farm. And so that's things like, I really go over carefully with folks the fact that when they buy from a farm, they're going to have a really great smelling flower. It isn't going to be something with no smell that's been through the whole shipping thing and everything. It's going to be a beautiful, fresh, really good smelling flower, and smell is an important part of memory. And so, if your bride wants to be able to wake up on the morning of her anniversary each year and walk outside and see the same flowers that are in bloom that she's using on her wedding day, that smell is going to instantly trigger some really great, great memories for her. Um, Freshness obviously is another big selling factor. Environmental impact is another big selling factor with that. Talking about community and what farms are able to do for the community, and that you can help a bride bring together a theme. Lots of the folks that are coming to farms for their flowers often will have either a farm theme, or they are very serious with their environmental stuff, and they want that to be played through for the whole day. So, and the other thing that is different with this type of farming from other types of farming is that a lot of your sales are really happening online in real time. I don't even have any type of a market. I do all of my business over my cell phone. Uh, Most people seem to think that if you're in this kind of a industry, you want to have a big staff. What we found over time is that the fewer employees you have, the better. What you want are really good employees, and you want people that can really do the job. I have a ton of people who stop in all the time and say, I'm really good at arranging flowers. If you ever need help, I don't even pay any attention to that. I want an employee that is going to be able to go from planting to arranging to being up at the top of the ladder, hanging stuff, to lugging buckets out at the end of the day. And so it's really full spectrum is what keeps your employee count down. You have to be really sure that the people that you're hiring are going to be on time every time, no exceptions. I think one of the reasons that weddings have the reputation for being so stressful for people is because there are not very many moments in life that you absolutely have no wiggle room for with regards to timing. And a wedding is like that. A wedding starts at a specific time, and everything has got to be there, ready to go, and looking perfect at that moment. And so there are no exceptions for that. We had, I mean, to give you an idea, I had an employee that was a older gentleman that worked with me. He was actually very talented and really great, but he came into work one morning, hadn't even started the day yet. And my gosh, he had a heart attack, and we had to stop everything, do CPR. get 911 in there, get him out the door. And that happened at 10 in the morning, and we still had a wedding to put on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the wedding still has to happen. It's still the most important day in this girl's life, and it has to happen. And so you have to have a staff that you can reorient quickly, get them focused again, and keep everybody on track. Um, and then afterwards, you all go to the hospital to visit him. So too many people basically kill your efficiency, and it also makes it so that you can't find the tools that you need when the big moment comes, and it's also kills your bottom line. So uh, then looking at cover crops, I can't say enough about cover crops. If you're doing cut flowers of any kind, you got to keep the weeds under control. And so if you want to have the look like what you see on the right there with the big huppa, then you better have the cover crops going on the left in order to make sure that your weed control um, is really going to be good, because you don't have time once the season gets rolling to be really struggling with weeds. And there's nothing that will make you walk away from a crop faster than just having to give it up to weeds. So cover crops are really important. We use rye, wheat, sorghum, oats, buckwheat, grass, all of those things as cover crop. Pre and post harvest practices. Again, it really comes down to how do you take care of your flowers? And I think any cut flower person, it's the same kind of across the board. Bucket washing. We're very serious about our bucket washing around here. We want our stems to hold. We want everybody to be happy with them. And so, when we're training folks around here, we tell them that if you can't drink out of that bucket, it isn't good enough to be picking into. Temperature of water obviously depends on the flowers that you're picking, timeliness of picking, and getting some flowers want to go into the cooler, some don't. You got to kind of know the difference there, and keeping your work area clean, and also keeping the fields clean. We make sure that we don't have a lot of dead stuff laying around in our fields. Okay, then comes the one that everybody asks about. How do you do consults and quotes? First is that I like to, when I'm sitting down to do a consult with folks, I don't want to talk to anybody, about that kind of thing until I've got all the right party members there. And so I want to see the bride there, I want to see the groom there, and I want to see either the mother of the bride or whoever is footing the bill for the whole thing. And then my number one question for everybody as we get going is budget. What is your budget? Because you can put a whole lot of work into pulling together all kinds of stuff only to discover that the budget isn't there to make it happen. So you want to be sure that the budget is matching what you're working toward. Most traditional florists have wedding packages. As a farm florist, it's really difficult to do wedding packages because it's so different for everybody. And because you're working with all seasonal stems, pretty much everything that we do is custom. And again, back to budget. Budget, did we mention budget? Yeah, got to get that budget down. Budget is the number one thing you want to find out when you're doing your quotes. You also have to know your flowers, and you have to know how to make seasonal substitutions in order to be able to give a bride a look that she wants while working with your flowers. And so as an example for that, baby's breath is used a lot. For me, I start the season out with beach plum, and I'll go from beach plum to angel's breath to baby's breath, to the wild quinine, and then Baccharis. And each of those things can take the place of baby's breath in an arrangement. Trials and tribulations. I thought we ought to spend a little bit of time talking about trials and tribulations for doing farming for weddings. It's almost always weather related. And so the occasional disaster happens, but mostly the biggest problems come with spring. It's very, very, very hard to put your finger on exactly the timing of when things are going to be in bloom in spring, because springs tend to either run a little bit behind or a little bit ahead. Everything catches up and the rest of the season will kind of even out, but the springs have got a lot more variability for them. Um, you also have the problem, of course, with heat and wind. If there's a hurricane, I figure for every hurricane that rattles through, it's 2 weeks that you're going to be out. I mean, there isn't a flower on the place for about 2 weeks. If that happens, we go with the ABCs around here, which is keep your cool. And so, A, always be cheerful and calm. B, buy and sell as you need to make the day happen. And C, communicate with the bride and with her mom, because if you can have a very relaxed bride and have a mom that's going nuts in the background. So you want to be sure that everybody's happy. And so what we'll do is if I see a big problem coming up, a hurricane or something like that, I am going to be picking like crazy ahead of it. And I'm going to be filling up the coolers with everything that I have. Hopefully, I'm going to have enough there to be able to really pull a beautiful day together for that bride, even if um, it isn't exactly what we were thinking that we were going to do. And um, and the nice thing to remember about hurricanes is that everybody's world is turned upside down with them. And so at that point, you get a new playing field and you're able to kind of change as you need to. I will sometimes even take some of my product at that point and sell some things that aren't in the color that my bride wanted in order to buy something else in the moment to cover what I lost in the hurricane. Okay. Other trials and tribulations, agencies is one of the biggest, and that's because you're working outside traditional marketing practices. And so
Prudence, we're kind of losing you a bit. Could you turn your video off and see if that helps?
turn my video off. Okay, uh,
On the bottom, there should be a little video camera that you can turn off there. Leave your screen on, but turn your video off because now I don't hear you at all.
Let me try to turn yours off for you.
So Lindsay, I can just barely hear you.
I'm gonna stop the video for Prudence
Okay.
and see if that helps.
hi, everybody still there?
Yep, we're still here.
Okay, I can hardly hear you now.
I can hear you. I can hear you well, Prudence.
I
Okay.
can hear you. You just need to load your slide, put up your slides again.
Okay. And here we go. Hang on. And share. And so share. See if that comes up.
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So so we were saying that in terms of trials and tribulations, town and government agencies can definitely be a challenge. And that really has to do with the fact that you're operating outside of a traditional farm stand marketing kind of a thing. And because you're outside of the traditional marketing practices, they really don't understand your business very well. And as a result, you have a hard time with them understanding that you are farming. All they hear is the word wedding, and they're not sure that you're farming at all when you're spending virtually all day, every day out on the farm. And let's see. Uh-oh, and now it won't move on. to the next screen. So we're going to have to go back to share again here, I think.
Or try clicking your mouse on the
Hang on, I
picture of
think
the
I got to
duck.
go in here. I think we got it. Hang
There you
on.
go.
From beginning, we're going to have to start over here. There we go. Okay. So, um, so then, with regards to talking about, lots of people will ask if um, the brides are really a nightmare to work with, and frankly, they're not. They're very self-selecting. If they're coming to a farm and want to have the farm do the flowers, you're going to get a lovely, lovely group of women that you're working with. 98% of the time, they're really great to work with. But there's always that 2% that's out there. And in that case, you really work hard to remember that the bride is always right, and you're really trying to bend over backwards to have that be a really positive experience for her. There are moments where um, where she's not always right. Actually, it's rarely the bride that is the problem. It's almost always the mother of the bride, if you're going to have any kind of an issue. And in that case, the rule of thumb that we have with our staff here is that you're friendly, you are understanding, but you're firm about what you can and can't do. So the picture that I put up here with this one, with the big deconstructed arch here, uh, was one that when I was speaking during the consult with the family, and in fact, multiple times leading up to this particular wedding, the mother of the bride said each time, this was the look the bride really wanted. The mother of the bride said each time, now I'm going to want to put it in the entrance of the tent for the reception afterwards. Her ceremony site was over a mile from her reception site, over bumpy dirt roads, and there was no way that the look that this bride wanted, like this, was going to be able to be transported following her ceremony over to her reception to line the tent and everything. And so I explained that to them along the way, and the bride understood that just fine. I offered some other alternatives to them of things that would repurpose better. The bride did not want that. This was the look that she wanted. And clearly, in that kind of a situation, you have to be very, very, very clear. Come wedding day, the mother of the bride again said, and I would like that moved to the tent. And I said, and I told you all along that the look cannot be moved to the tent. Each of those portions there, by the time all the flowers and the water and everything go on it, are hundreds of pounds. And they obviously are going to fall apart if you go to move them. And so in that situation, the mother of the bride decided that if the florist won't do it, I'll have the catering staff do it. So the catering staff came to me and said, how do we do that? And I said, you're not going to be able to do it. And so the catering staff said no, that they wouldn't do that. So then the mother of the bride went to the person who owned the property. And by the next day, when we came back to clean everything up, the person who owned the property did in fact try to move them, and they did in fact fall all apart, just like I had told them that they would. So in that kind of a situation, it's super important that you're clear ahead about how things are going to work and how your designs work and what they will and won't do with regards to fulfilling expectations for everybody. Next question that I often get is number one East End wedding flower. And that would be out here, it would be the dahlia. And it's definitely the most requested flower for weddings. And I think lots of that is just because people are familiar with it. It's absolutely beautiful. It has so many different looks. The timing is good with regards to all the fall weddings. It has an excellent vase life, and it's super versatile. So for anybody who's wondering, number one flower, that's probably it. Final thought that I would give you guys before we move on to the question answer period is to ask yourself if you're really thinking about doing something like this and you want to do the farming and wedding thing, ask yourself what really turns you on. So is it floral design or is it farming? If the answer is that, I really, really, really love the floral design part and I really love floral arranging, then my recommendation, but the farming is a means to an end to get the flowers, my recommendation is not to take this on because it is so much cheaper to just go and buy the flowers from somebody else who's doing the farming. The farming end of it is really expensive and really hard to balance with all of the sales that go along with this and the floral design piece. And so, unless you're really interested in doing the farming, then I would say work on becoming a florist and support the local farms. So that's it. And I guess any questions that folks have, I can answer. Hopefully.